So I think it's pretty safe to say that since they were actually calling the company S.H.I.E.L.D. in this film, that can only mean one thing. Phil Coulson was indeed trolling Tony Stark the entire time in Iron Man 1. Phil Coulson, my man! So this is the final Marvel Cinematic Universe film before Endgame comes out, and it is also Marvel's first female-led film in the MCU. So, can Captain Marvel pull it out of the bag and break the mold for the MCU? Let's get into it! So the first thing I've really got to say about Captain Marvel is that there has been a lot of mixed reviews that are coming in about this film. I have seen a lot of online reviewers not exactly giving Captain Marvel the best reviews. I want to say first and foremost that I enjoyed the hell out of this film. I thought this was a riot from start to finish, and one thing that I particularly enjoyed about Captain Marvel is its non-linear storytelling. This brought an air of originality into this film, and I like the fact that you discover more about Carol Danvers and about her character and about her history as she discovers it through the film. There are certain parts of this film that do remain a little bit of a mystery until you actually uncover them along with the characters. And despite what you may or may not know about Captain Marvel going into this film, there are certain surprises that take place, and I really enjoyed the fact of that element of discovery happening throughout the film. This meant it felt a little bit less like an origins film for me, because Veers, or Carol Danvers, or whatever you want to refer to her as throughout the duration of this film, she already has her powers at the start of this. So she has powers, she's part of Star Force, but actually what she's doing is she's uncovering elements of her history and her backstory, and certain things that went on in her history that bear relevance now. Because ultimately what you see her do isn't necessarily become a hero. What she does is become her own person and her own identity, and I think that's a strong message for this film to send. One thing I definitely enjoyed about this film was seeing a younger Nick Fury, and I've got to say that the de-aging effects that they used on Samuel L. Jackson were absolutely incredible. It was totally seamless for a majority of the film. In fact, this is probably the best that he's looked since Pulp Fiction. Even then, probably better than Pulp Fiction, let's be honest. But I do have to say that some of the effects that they used for Phil Coulson weren't quite as slick, and Phil Coulson actually played far less of a part in this film than I was really hoping that he would. I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more of him because people were so excited to see him in this from the initial trailers. But personally, I think that could just be me and my hopes for what to get out of this film. The humour in this film was definitely well placed, and it didn't overstay its welcome. Two very strong elements at work there. I would say that it's not necessarily as funny or as witty as maybe a lot of people have come to expect the Marvel Cinematic Universe films to be lately, but it really does fit in majoritively speaking with the tone of what this film is trying to do. They had the right balance of where to place it and what to have, and it made, ultimately, for a more enjoyable film. There's a decent mix of humour, there's a decent mix of action, there's a decent mix of characterization. But on that point, a lot of people have been saying that because Carol Danvers already has her powers at the start, that there isn't that much of a character arc throughout the film. She starts off as a female hero who does her job really well, and she ends the film as a female hero who does her job really well. But there is an element of discovery in the middle, and as I said, the main part of this is that she is discovering who she is on her own terms. Ultimately, I had a really good time watching Captain Marvel. It didn't really have any slow parts in it, and the slow parts that there were kind of explained a lot of the story and a lot of the relationships between characters, which was a good element to have. The parts with Star Force and the Kree Warriors made a better Green Lantern film than all of Green Lantern. And yes, this might not be the best standalone Marvel film that there's been, particularly maybe not the best Origins one that there has been. However, I do have to say that this is definitely up there among the Origins films that there have been. I would rather watch Captain Marvel any day over something like, say, Doctor Strange. Plus, we finally have Skrulls on the big screen, and they do actually look awesome. A lot of people were like, I'm not sure how they look in the face from the initial set photos, but once you get into it in this film, the Skrulls, they look awesome in this film. So with that in mind, Captain Marvel gets 4 stars from me. Do not necessarily believe what you are hearing from other reviewers online. I've got to say that this is definitely a film that you really have to see for yourself to decide what to make of it. Yes, there are definitely elements that I feel probably could have been done better. There were a few twists and turns that, yeah, made sense in the film, but overall, for the ultimate end goal of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, might not have been what I predicted to be the choices that get made, but I may well have to cover all of that in a spoiler review so that I can go into a little bit more depth about it without ruining too much of the story. So, Captain Marvel, have you seen her? What did you think of her? And if there was to be a sequel for Captain Marvel or another carry-on of this one, what kind of characters would you like to see introduced, and would you watch Captain Marvel heading up the next phase of Marvel Cinematic Universe films? All comments are welcome in the comment section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see more, you can click right here to subscribe and see some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, I will leave you with a question this time. Am I really Drew? Or am I a Skrull in disguise? How would you really know?